This is Ben Borg.
This is Katrina Borg.
This is Maggie Morgan. And this is the More Than Macros podcast.
How are you, dude?
Good, bro. Long time, man.
Hey, it's been a very long time, and it's been a very specific 6 months that I've been hanging to talk to you.
A very specific 6 months. Man, how you doing, buds?
I'm doing all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, doing solid, man.
I'll have to send you a couple of Polaroids of myself, mate, for your back wall.
Yeah, man. I want like the Ben mural is what I need.
Correct.
Yeah, it's got to happen. Got to happen.
How are you, mate? How have you been?
Dude, things are fantastic, man. I mean, it was busy times with, building up the games with the whole season and everything. And then just as I thought, I was like, okay, cool. Games is done. Emily's in a good place. Everybody's doing good. Get to take a bit of time for myself. And then those bit of time was like a week or two. And now it's just like back at it, man. Yeah. Back at it. Gone for the next 6 weeks. But man, I'm loving the dream, man. Loving it.
A victim of your own success, mate.
Dude, it's so cool, man. Like, look what we get to do, even you, man, like we get to work with incredible athletes, incredible human beings all over the world. Man, I swear. And I always tell my clients too, I'm like, oh, thank you so much, Brett. And I'm like, man, no, thank you. Like, it's because of you guys that I get to live my dream every day. It's got its ups and downs, obviously.
And then you've been on a plane a fair bit as well, mate. Jet setting around.
Oh yeah, buddy. Yeah. Even now, I'm off to LA, Vegas, Calgary, Honolulu, Italy in the next 5 weeks, man. Just in the next 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So busy.
No trips to Oz. We're not going to get one of these in person anytime soon, or what?
Man, we gotta just make it happen, man. Well, I mean, listen, maybe I'll do it. That's what we'll do. I'll come down and we can take a photo to put the Ben mural up.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Done.
Mate, I've for obvious reasons, I've wanted to talk to you for a while for a couple of different points. I think a lot of the conversations that we've had over the last couple of years of the podcast and how they've centered around building confidence and what confidence is and how confidence kind of translates into athletic performance, and I guess all performance, not just athletic. And I guess what I want to pick your brain about mostly today is getting it back, like what to do when you feel like you kind of been at that point, and then whether it be and I might get you to share your story as well from kind of like injury and illness, or whether it be me in my situation, or even Em and kind of her situation through the games, which I'm sure most people listening are probably aware of. How do you start to build that back when it's something like your body that you feel all of a sudden, something that you've had so much confidence in a matter of seconds has essentially, like, I guess personally for me, like I felt like my body betrayed me, like it let me down in that one moment, something that I've always like worked on and practiced on and had a lot of pride in how strong it was, all of a sudden just breaks into a million pieces. How do you kind of reaffirm getting back, and how do you start to get over that metaphorical mental hump of being like, I'm not sure like if I can do this anymore? Sure.
Well, I mean, it's a great question, and I will do my best to keep this as short as possible.
Nah, don't do that.
So listen, I think that the very first thing that people need to recognize is that life, like the stock market on a chart, is always going to be filled with ups and downs. Like, that's inevitable. A lot of times when we look at these ups, life's great. I don't know, maybe we kind of turn the blinders off and just kind of living life, enjoying the moments and so on. But if you look at any type of real adversity that we've ever faced, that's when like the magic actually happens. Like, man, when things are down and out, when you're pushed against the wall, it feels like the world's closing in on you or your body's let you down. That's what really starts to play with like the psyche. That's like where we really get tested. And this is going to sound so twisted, but I encourage people to get into that state more often. Now, I don't want you to run out and bust your legs like my boy, but I feel that a lot of times we play it too safe, and life is about taking risks. And the more risks you take, the more lessons you're going to learn. The more lessons you learn, the better application. For me, just a quick side note, man, I got diagnosed with gastroparesis, a disease that has no cure. It's a stomach disease. This is 15 years ago. 3 specialists in the world told me, hey, Brett, you're never going to train martial arts again. There's no cure for this. You got to let go of that pipe dream. I refused to accept that after a couple of years, and I was in a dark, dark place. But there was one moment that changed it all for me. And here's me at like 120 pounds, lost all my hair, had all my fingertips, like my fingernails and toenails were gone due to malnourished and obviously no immune system and yada, yada, yada. And I was standing at the corner of a crosswalk one day, contemplating suicide. And that was at the forefront of my conscious thoughts. It wasn't just like a one-off thing. It was all I was thinking. And I go to push the button. And as I do so, I look to my left and there's like a young boy, 15 years old, and he's in a wheelchair and he has no legs at all. And this boy looks up at me and he smiles, man. And I can wholeheartedly say that it's one of those moments that's changed my life forever. I realized in that moment that how I was choosing to view the world in front of me was completely wrong. Like it was poor Brett, poor me, man, how could this happen to me? Yada, yada, yada. When I was standing on my own two legs. So having a moment like that, can be super powerful. And that's kind of what catapulted me. And there's still times where I think about that boy. I mean, I'm very grateful for that. Now, not everybody's going to be faced with a boy in a wheelchair that has no legs. And what do we do to replace that? And I think about ultimately, what's your leverage, man? Like, Ben, we've talked about this before. Like, man, you have a family to provide for, you know, you got a little girl, you're going to set that role. You want to be that role model. You're going to set that example. You know, if I said to you, hey, Ben, you know, you got a bench, I don't know, like 285, and you're like, man, I can't do my best is 255. And I say, your daughter's life's on the line. I guarantee you're finding a way to move that bar, man.
Yeah.
You know, so I think when you look at either a catalyst or ultimate leverage, that's like the start and the end of those charts of life. You know, it's something that we're always going to chase. And inside those peaks and valleys are just lessons, man. Like me getting sick, as twisted as it is to say, man, I didn't make it to the Olympics and I wouldn't say I lost 5 years, but 5 years of my life was horrible. But man, it's a blessing. It's legitimately one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life. This ain't some BS sob story, man. That's the truth. Because I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing. I wouldn't be able to coach, you know, all the incredible athletes that I do. And I can relate it back to that moment. Man, I can guarantee you, even in the moments as you're, you know, getting better and you're making huge progress, you'll be able to look back and realize like, holy shit, man, there was so much that I did in this time because of X, Y, and Z. Or maybe because you couldn't get up and run a marathon or run all over the place, you had time to focus on something else. So Brett's long-winded answer is very simple. Okay. Never lose sight of the ultimate leverage. All right. Ever. To me, acceptance first. You're going to lose that battle in your head about how could this happen to me? Poor me. This isn't unfair. I hate life, whatever. I want to die, just like I was. The sooner you recognize that, hey, what's done is done. It's fucking happened. Excuse my language. You're dealing with it. The sooner you can find the advantage in the situation and get back to work. And to me, making measurable actions daily, like we've talked about before, is so crucial, especially in a time when you're feeling like you're getting the shit beat out of you, man.
Yeah, it's true. I guess every superhero origin story typically starts with like some sort of catastrophe, right? Yeah.
And you look at all of these incredible leaders, people like Tony Robbins, look at David Goggins, like these guys are crazy. They've faced massive adversity. And you don't need to be diagnosed with gastroparesis or go to the gym and blow both your knees or playing footy or whatever the heck it was you did. You don't need to do that. All right. Don't do that. But in life, it's going to come down to choices because we are all faced with adversity, some greater than others, but some different. Maybe somebody's adversity was giving birth. And that's 10 times more meaningful or more powerful than Brett getting gastroparesis. You know, it's just our stories are different. But the adversity is there. So to me, adversity is a gift. Like it's a beautiful thing I know it sounds really messed up, but it really is a gift.
Yeah. It's, you're right. Like it's in that initial moment, I think in that initial crux when I guess what's just happened or what is happening is sinking in. Like it's much easier to say like, oh, good, this is going to be a good thing. Like, yay, more adversity. Right.
Dude, look, for sure, man. It just blew up my knees. Man, this is the best day of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, you know, even think of it like this. Like, I'm sure people can relate. Everybody's gone through a bad breakup. Everybody's had the crazy ex, or that was the one, man. No, but you don't understand that we were special. We were supposed to be together, and man, you're a mess for however long. Then when you look back, it's like, oh man, you know, we move on, man. We pick up the pieces and we move on, right? But if you look back, in every tough relationship or every adversity, there's a gift. But I think, to your point, that acceptance piece is very crucial. You can't say, man, I just blew both my knees, and not have some time to yourself to digest what just happened. You know, you can't just sit here and say, oh man, this is a blessing. Man, that would be ridiculous. All right. Acceptance first. You got to look at the facts. Staring at your knees, man, and realizing your legs are toast, dude, it's going to play with your psyche and your emotions. That's understandable. Okay.
Yeah. And then definitely, I think that for me, one of my sister asked me, like, have you like taken some time? I think I was still in hospital, which is like, have you taken some time to like reflect? And I think my answer was like, no, because if I reflect on how much damage I've just done and how far I have to go to come back, like it feels insurmountable, like the road back at this time. So rather than trying to look at like how far I had to go and it just being at the start, it was kind of easier to just be more like looking in the short term, like today, and just trying to feel like one day at a time to get through.
Yeah. And that's fair. And like I said, it's understandable. I guess the only thing that I would challenge you at is it's extremely tough to look how far you've come to get to that point, blow at your knees, and then it's like, man, I don't even want to think about what it's going to take to get there. It's like one thing at a time, one day at a time. But at the same time, I would challenge you and say, well, what's something that you can now do, not to replace that, but because you've got the ability to do something different, you have no choice in the time being. So, I mean, I hope you could say to me, you know, man, in the past 6 months, I've actually picked up this book, or I've done this, or I've done that, or whatever it may be. Well, you can. And if you look at a lot of these athletes, they're going to face adversity. They face injuries. What do? Do they stop working out? Do they stop learning? Do they stop getting better? Does Tony Robbins, if something happens, does he just stop?
Yeah.
Like, they never stop, man. Like, we don't stop. There's always something.
So I get that kind of mindset in terms of like getting through and accepting and kind of embracing and moving through. What about the specifics of, say, for example, like if we use M, right, and kind of what she had done, or any kind of significant athletic injury, the actual confidence in, you know, that like part or that specific injury, whether it be like a knee injury, and then every time you squat, like getting over that, like focus on, like, I guess, because it's, you know, if you've ever had a back injury, every time you deadlift and you approach the bar, like, what are you thinking? Like, fuck, we've got to be careful. Watch my back. And I feel in most cases, if you're going into it with that mindset, like it becomes a self-propelling, what's it called? Fulfilling prophecy, right? Like you're going to hurt your back if all you're thinking about like is hurting your back. How do you make like that kind of switch where it's not like a blind confidence in like, oh fuck, just load up my max on the squat rack and see how we go, but also not being so like hyper aware and hypersensitive to everything?
Totally. Yeah, good question. So, man, I don't know what it's like there, but here, if you're on the highway and you're driving along and there's a couple lanes, a lot of times in certain corners or if you're changing lane, there's the dotted lines, but they also have like these little reflectors that are like in like the dotted lines sometimes on a highway. Yeah. And like if you're driving, you can change lanes, and most of the time you won't hit them. But if you're looking at those stupid little reflectors and you try to change lanes, man, it's almost like clockwork. Like you hit them all, like okay. It's almost like if you put focus on it and you put attention on it, that's where you're gonna go. That's what's gonna happen. So just to your point, man, like with M or any of these people that have faced huge injuries, is there gonna be some doubt? Yeah, man. No kidding. You don't think there's gonna be some trauma and PTSD in there for sure? You don't think you're gonna have those flashes? You will, 100%. I think the important part here is again to measure what you're doing daily to take care of your body. All right. So if I blew out my back doing something, I'm not going to make a statement that says, oh man, I can't wait to get even or to get back to where I was. Well, that doesn't do us any good because that's where I broke my back. Yeah. Right. So it's almost like, well, what I was doing before clearly didn't work. Now, it doesn't apply to all cases if you get your knees taken out, but what I'm trying to say is that maybe we need to put more focus on certain things to better put ourselves into a better safe place. Now, with that is where the kicker is, though. So let's look at M really quick for her recovery. So in terms of her arm, yeah, crazy freak blood clots, had the surgery. She's doing good, right? She's slowly making progress, getting to, put some weight on the arm and so on. The things that we're going to be focusing on is, working your arm, putting into a good state, doing all the fine little tuning, the stuff that little accessory stuff that almost like went by the wayside.
Yeah.
It's like those things become a little bit more important. Our attention now goes to that. So we got two options. We can have the mindset of, oh man, this is what blew my back out, or this is what hurt me before. I might have some reservations and I might put myself into a shit state. You could see it affecting my actual, lining up to the bar or whatever I'm going to do. Or you could say, man, I'm pumped because of all the work that I've been putting on my arm. Like I've got the trust in my trainers. I've got the trust in my body's healing abilities. I've got the trust in my nutrition. I'm doing the right things to put myself into a better place. And man, that's where confidence lies.
Yeah.
Confidence lies in the work that you've done. Confidence comes from being able to do something multiple times over and over and building on it, right? That's where confidence comes from. When you break confidence, and it's usually from our own self-doing mentally.
Yeah. I guess M almost represents like the opposite end of the spectrum, where it was like her ability to like prevail through hardship and adversity actually almost cost her arm.
You have no idea. Like that is, oh man, I don't know if, okay, so
maybe for anyone who doesn't know the story, obviously M is a client that we mutually work with who, she had some injury, she had some issues with her arm, got some treatment in Canada before leaving, got to the games, and during the first event, like started to lose feeling, sensation, blood flow. And funnily enough, if you look at the photo that CrossFit Games put on when she's riding the bike, you can see like her one hand is white and her other hand is like obviously regular color.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild. So yes, that's
ended up having blood clots removed from her
immediate surgery. And I'm going to say, man, I've seen a lot of cool things with some incredible athletes. We've all heard of these heroic things that people do, but to see it firsthand, again, the credit goes to Emily. Her mindset is so committed. She's so confident in her abilities. She's absolutely relentless, and she refuses to stop. Refuses to the point where when I saw her come off the toes to bar and get on the bike, I was like, okay, she was second or third. I was like, she's got this. Like this is a podium event for sure. She's got this. I knew that she'd ripped through these chest to bar as well. And as soon as she broke once, when I was standing right next to her, like literally at the rig. And as soon as she broke, I was like, that's not our strategy. Okay. Yeah. Maybe she's doing something. And then I saw her break again, and then again, and then again. Then I realized something's up. And for her to break at this point, like it's not her. So of course I instantly knew. I was like, okay, she's blowing out her grip from her. She's obviously, her arm's bothering her, whatever it is. Let's just keep moving. Man, when I saw her chipping away, and I saw other people get on the bike and start biking again, it's like I'm gutted, man. Like there's nothing I can do, right? Yeah. I want to yell at her. I want to hit her with a stick, man. I want to throw a chair. I was just like choked, but it's like, man, clearly something's going on. I don't have all the data, right? Anyway, she gets on the bike, finishes the event, and overtakes a whack ton of people, finishes 14th in the event. And as soon as I go back to see her, I realize, medical's taking her. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. Go checked out. I'm preparing the conversation I'm about to have with her. Okay. And the second I find out what's happened, wow, man. Like I was speechless, buddy. I was speechless to the fact that somebody has the ability to do 75 chest to bar pull-ups, essentially with one arm. All right. And then get back on a bike and bike a whack ton. But the more important thing here is that the mind is so damn powerful. If you cut off all options other than finishing this event, it's incredible what you're capable of doing. Emily literally lost circulation in her left arm. She could not move the damn arm, man. Like no motor function, like barely any. Imagine looking at your hand in the middle of a workout and it's blue and still having the mind saying, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I'm not stopping. Quitting is never an option. And when you, like I said, when you make that decision, when you rule out everything, when there's no other option, you go. End of story.
Yeah.
Now, to that extreme, I thought my mindset training was going to cost one of the best athletes in the world her arm. So I'm glad that that didn't happen. But all credit to Emily, man. It's one of the most, it's probably the most incredible physical attributes I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. I think with what M's kind of story maybe sheds light on as well is it's almost the importance of having the resilience or the attitude or the self-belief or the mindset before like the incident occurs, right? Like it's very hard to try to get resilient like after adversities occur, as opposed to like if you're someone who is resilient and you know something like this happens or adversity strikes, probably your ability to get through it, whether it be faster or take more out of it, but just to keep kind of moving forward, like is probably greatly impacted as well.
Yeah, but you know what? And when you look at that resilience, and it's a great statement, Ben. But you know what? You think about, like, okay, for me, for example, man, if I was to get some illness, I'd be like, man, it's nothing in comparison to what I went through. I can face that, no problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But buddy, any adult, any person that's listening to this, man, we've faced adversity. Okay. The difference is how you're choosing to view it. You want to look at it as a negative, a detriment. I don't even want to think about that. That's bad. Or do you want to view it as, holy shit, that forged me into who I am today. Like it takes resilience to get over these things. I got fired from a job. Man, what am I going to do? Never work again in my life? No, you're going to get back up and get another job. That builds resilience. Did you go to a competition and win it right out of the gates? Probably not. You know, maybe you got smashed and you came dead last in an event. There's resilience there.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's important that we measure it and use it to our advantage, as opposed to, I don't even want to talk about it, man. That was a bad event. Let's just move on. You know?
Yeah, I think for me, that was part of the attitude that helped was I was like, okay, the universe has sat me down on my ass pretty hard. There's got to be like something big coming down the pipeline, like to have been sat down this hard.
Yeah, for sure, man. You know, it's again, buddy, this is the beautiful thing about the mindset is it's all in our control. You choose what you want to do, man. It's up to you. Yeah. And here's a small little thing. Again, this goes back to the leverage piece. I was talking to my old man a while ago, and my dad's Italian, and my Italian sucks. All right, like it's a joke. I speak better Mandarin than I speak Italian.
Well, that time on a plane, mate. You got to start playing with Duolingo or something.
I know, man, totally. Well, so listen to this. So I was talking to Dad, and he was like, "Oh, I want to go back to Italy," and I was like, "Hey, man, totally. I want to go back. We got to make it happen." And I had this crazy dream where the dream was Dad and I were in Italy, and I spoke Italian. All right. And man, the look on my dad's face where it was just crazy. I was like, man, it's one of those dreams where I woke up and I legitimately thought I could speak Italian. Okay. When I call him, I'm telling him like, man, you're not going to believe this. And he's laughing at me. He's like, you're an idiot, man. You know, maybe you should, you know, Mr. Execution, Mr. This and that, but maybe you should go do something about it. Right. And I was like, you motherfucker, man. Like, fine. I am going to do something about it. So funny enough, I started taking Italian lessons. All right. The kicker for me is the leverage is there. Maybe it's the leverage of to prove my dad wrong, or to have the moments to be able to go to Italy with my dad and speak Italian, you know? So even in your time of, you know, injury, man, again, depending on how you choose to view what's in front of you can drastically change what you do next.
Yeah.
So my big point here, man, is that if anybody's facing adversity and you're going through something, you know, you went through, or I went through, or everybody's gone through, how you choose to view it is drastically important. The decisions you make next can ultimately change your life. And I'm living proof from what I did, and you're going through it right now, man.
Yeah. Do you have any sort of practices people can put into play in terms of like, how do you start developing that kind of attitude, that kind of mindset, so that you can start to build resilience before adversity sort of strikes?
Yeah. I mean, I think the big important piece here is that ultimate leverage, right? So what is it that you want to achieve? Okay. Like what's the ultimate leverage? Most people, sometimes they can't even identify what it is that they want to do. You know, like when we're kids, okay, yeah, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a ninja. Sure. That's all fine and dandy. But as we get older, it's like, I don't know what I want to do. Right. So if you're faced with adversity, where do you find the leverage? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what if we don't have that leverage? And that's pretty common. Then I look at the flip side. So maybe you don't know what you don't or maybe you don't know exactly what you want to do, but I guarantee you, you know what you don't want. Do you know what I mean? Everybody can identify like to a T what they don't want in their life or what they don't want to be. That's very easy. I would say, man. So, dude, I say hands down, if you don't have the leverage, don't figure out what it is that you don't want, and you can apply that. Now, in terms of actual tools, it's funny, man. If you're in a negative state, if you find yourself down and out, dude, I have a little trampoline in my office, like one of those little mini ones, and I jump on it.
That's a Tony Robbins thing, isn't it? Before he goes
100%, man. Yeah. I jump on it like a little kid, and I'm not even kidding you, man. Oh, dude, to me, it like totally physically changes my state, and I 100% took it away from Tony Robbins, and man, I love it. But the other thing is, like, if I find myself sitting on the couch in a negative state, maybe if I'm not in my office, then I'll jump up off the couch. Okay. Or I will do something physical. We talked about this before, like physically, like change my state, you know, smack my hands or do something physical. Yeah. That physical state change gives you a moment to disrupt the emotions. So if you find yourself in a shit state, you're thinking negative things, you find yourself in a bad state, if you jump up or change something physical, it kind of gives you a bit of a shock, and it gives you a moment to go back to the leverage or what it is you don't want, something measurable, and you know, kind of regain your focus. So change your physical state. Smack yourself in the face if you have to. Just kind of shock yourself.
Cold shower or some push-ups.
Cold shower, man. Yeah, legitimately.
Do you think it makes a difference whether your leverage is like negatively stemmed or positively stemmed? So do you think it matters if you're, like you said before, if it's something you don't want as opposed to something you do want? Do you think there's a difference if you're going out to, say, prove someone wrong as opposed to like doing it for something that's more a little bit intrinsic?
No, I think it's whatever important to you. Man, Jesus, dude. I remember making a statement one day to somebody that I cared about deeply at the time, little ex-girlfriend. And
Adversity.
Yeah, little adversity. And I remember saying, I want to coach pro athletes. That's what I want to do. And she looked at me, she's like, what makes you think you can coach pro athletes? That was it, buddy. Like, that's all I needed. But that was for me, right? So whether it's to prove somebody wrong, that's one thing that drives me. You got to figure out what it is that drives you. You know, maybe it's the thought of something wonderful. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's to prove somebody wrong. I don't know, because everybody's different. But it's very important to figure out your driving factors. And that's what I reference as the leverage piece.
Yeah. You think write it down? We'll put it somewhere where you can constantly see it, remember it.
I mean, I'm a big believer of writing things down. You know this. Yeah. I like writing shit down because it becomes tangible, right? And I mean, you think about how many times when we're driving down the road or we're reading a book and we're like, oh man, this is a great idea, or I should really do this. And then it kind of fizzles away. A lot of times it goes by the wayside because we haven't really attached something important enough to make us want to do it. Let me give you an example. Let's say we want to achieve something. What's the worst case scenario if we don't achieve it? Well, probably nothing. Like probably nothing. If I say, Ben, you know, I want to increase my clean by 10 kilos and I don't, do I lose my house? Like, you know, the world's not going to end. It's not like I'm going to lose water. You know what I mean? So the ramifications of not completing something probably aren't great enough to make us want to do it. And that's why I say that motivation thing comes and goes, because that's for motivational purposes. But actual purpose, life purpose, leverage, you know, your core values, who you are as an individual, that stuff should never change. That stuff shouldn't come and go. That should be a constant. Yeah. So if you have to write down something specifically, find a way to attach it to your life's purpose. For me, sticking it to my ex-girlfriend, you know, to whatever it may be. Man, if you got to write it down and stare at it, don't lose sight of it, but you got to attach it to the bigger purpose.
Is what you're saying is like, it's like until the pain of staying the same is more than the pain of changing, like
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because man, if push came to shove, we could achieve some incredible things if we had a gun to our head.
Yeah.
Agreed. Like it's without a doubt. And chances are we wouldn't achieve those things if we didn't have a gun to our head. So nobody's going to run around with guns to each other's heads, but you got to find a bigger way to attach more purpose to it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Run around. Let's go.
Maybe that is the ultimate leverage, right?
Okay. I told you there's a story, and I don't know if I shared this one with you. It was in a workout in Friendly Fran in Atlas Games 2 years ago, and man, one of the best athletes in the world was competing, and they crushed their time and like crushed it. And the athlete was on the floor, and their last set of chest to bars, there was 3 reps left, and they broke it 2-1, 2-1. Okay, athlete hits the deck, beats their last friend, crushes it. I think they got like second or third in the world in this event. Okay, in Atlas Games. And man, I go to the athlete, and man, this guy is cooked. Okay, he's down and out. Like, and I was like, dude, well done, boom, whatever. And he kind of gathered himself. He's like, man, it's the first time I can ever say that was my 100%. Like, I left it out there. That was everything, man. And I was like, dude, you put up a huge score. You beat some incredible athletes that were doing them together. Like, this is huge. So that was your absolute best. And he's like, yeah, I don't think I've ever been able to say like that was my 100%. Of course, I was furious because
if you've done it, it's not 100.
Man, like, I'm just like, oh man. So I'm like, man, okay, hold on a second. Get his fiance. I go, hey, fiance, yeah, cool. Question for you, 100%, right? Yeah, 100%. What if I had a gun to your wife's head and said, you can't break that last set of chest to bar? What do you think this guy's going to say, man?
Yeah.
You know? But if you take it for a second, there's so many times that we've done a WOD or we've done something and we're like, oh man, like that was incredible. It's very rare that we say it's 100%, but maybe there are times that we say that was the best I could have done. And I call bullshit, man, because guaranteed there's always something we can do better. Right.
I think it's like in the heat of the moment, like during the workout, I think it's like when everything's on fire and screaming, you feel like there's nothing left. And then as soon as you finish, you're like, I could have done more. Right.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And then you've got the crazies like Emily, where we did a workout together a week and a half ago or so. And it was mainly a lower body workout. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I refuse to fold mentally because I'm not going to let Emily down. I'm not going to hold her back. Right. And we ripped through this workout, and man, I stunned myself. We were both pumped. And in the moment, I was still able to consciously say to myself, man, you've got more. You've got more. But I've almost never pushed it that hard, so I didn't know what was going to happen. So think about that. Even in the moment when you're like, oh, I feel like I'm giving it my all. As Goggins would say, how do you know what that actually looks like?
Yeah.
Like how often do we push that threshold, you know? And you don't need to push that threshold just in the gym. You can push that threshold with your sleep, with the work you're putting out, with what you want to do, even with your nutrition. Think about how much more people can do with their nutrition, you know? Oh, Ben, I'm doing everything, man. I'm doing everything to the T, man. Bullshit. There's always more you can do, you know?
Yeah.
So I think challenge the status quo, man. Push it. You can absolutely do more. But
you
gotta figure out.
The key to that is just spending more time in that dark place, or it's spending more time making that, could I do more, just more of a conscious question, or what more could I be doing? What more could I be doing? What more could I be doing?
Cool. I think definitely spending more time in a dark place is dope. All right. You're going to be more comfortable with it. But at the same time, again, if you attach something that's strong enough to it, I think you'll be surprised what you can actually achieve. It's so easy in the moment to let go of the bar. Like, it's so easy on the assault bike to hold on to 500 watts to go to 475. Like, it's too easy. It's so much harder to go from 500 to 525 than it is from 500 to 475. You know what I mean? So if we really depend, again, it depends on what you want to achieve. If you really want to achieve greatness, if you really want that, and if the leverage is pointing you there, you got to find a way to face that demon, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, the ramifications of it generally aren't great enough to do it.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said for almost practicing going out too hot, right? Like just go out with the intention of burning out and just see how long you can hang on for, or see what happens. Because it's, especially when you almost use that there's no ramification to your advantage. Like if you're just doing a CrossFit class on a Wednesday, right? Like, see how hot you can go out. Because if you blow out and you have to lie on the ground for 20 minutes, you can't finish the workout. Like, you haven't actually lost anything in that moment, right?
No, man. Again, if anything, even if you went and sent it, if anything, that adversity is a huge lesson, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Might sound cliche to some people, but to me, every opportunity, there's an advantage. All right. Again, when you find the advantage in opportunities in everything that you face throughout the day, life changes, man. Life changes. Stop looking at things as poor me or shit that sucks. It's like, yo, bring it on, man. I know on the other side of this adversity is a better version of me. So go get it.
Yeah. So what we're saying is essentially, rather than like necessarily shying away for adversity, or the easiest way to, I guess, like start to practice building resilience is to actually look around and find like instances where you can challenge yourself to do a little bit more, do a little bit better.
Totally, man. And those, you shouldn't have to look far because it's at every single step you take, there's something.
Yeah. Do you think 100% is possible?
No. Savage. I don't know. To me, it's like man, Matthew McConaughey said in his like Oscar speech or whatever it was. Remember, he was like, "Well, I'm chasing my hero like every 5 years."
Yeah.
To me, it's the same thing. I don't believe in perfect. I don't know. I don't believe there's a perfect version of me or a perfect version of, well, okay, I'm joking. I don't believe there's perfect anything. To me, it's like I want to continue to strive to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess if you survive whatever it is that you try to put yourself through, it's like there was more in the tank.
For sure. Man, it's very rare that you can look back and say, oh, I did everything perfect. Like, to me, that doesn't exist in a workout, in life. Man, like, I think in maybe it sounds like I'm being a dick, but I think if you actually look at it tangibly, you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think like that feeling when you finish a workout, even as much as it was screaming during, as soon as you finish and you peel yourself off the floor, that first thought is always like, probably could have gone harder.
Totally. Yeah. Like I said, even if it's not in a workout, if it's working on a school assignment, it's something you did at your job or whatever it is, I believe there's always more. And again, dude, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you just got to be like full bore 100% the whole time, all day and night. No. I'm not saying that. Pick and choose your battles. But if you want to get better, it's easy to find adversity all around you.
Do you think complacency just becomes a habit? Do you just think we just get used to just being comfortable and it's, yeah.
Totally, man. Totally. I mean, especially you start building a habit around certain things, like how often we find ourselves just scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is that's your Achilles, just sitting there throwing on the TV or whatever it may be, man. I'm subject to it. Those are decisions that I do, decisions that I make. I mean, I'm not blaming anybody else. It's who we are. This is the nature that we live in. But again, it all depends on how important whatever X is for you. You can easily make the choice to go work on something productive.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny, since I've done that whole Italy thing, which hasn't been very long, it's been maybe a month or so, I don't find myself wasting time on social media and stuff like that anymore, just like aimlessly, because it's like, no, I have something I need to do.
Yeah.
Right. And there's purpose attached to it. So it's much more enjoyable. Plus, when I'm done, man, it's like when I've done that lesson and I get that checkbox, there's so much satisfaction out of it. It's like a sense of accomplishment, which in game then just builds more confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. The old Goggins calls it the cookie jar, right? Like every time you do something tough, you put in your cookie jar, and the next time you're doing something tough. That's what I'm hoping. Like that's what my knees are. They're like the ultimate cookie jar moments. Like
ultimate.
If I can do that, yeah.
Man, dude, you're faced massive adversity, and like like even when I went through, I can't put myself in your shoes, right? So, man, what's it been like? Like, obviously, you've had your moments, but have you been able to do things differently that are benefiting you today?
I think, yeah. I quite liked when I did it that there's not a whole lot of medical literature surrounding the injury I've done. So I think for a lot of it, there wasn't necessarily a point where there was like, oh, look, based on, you know, how many people we've seen go through this injury, like this is where you're going to get back. I think it was a lot of like, well, we don't really know. We have to see how we go. So I think I quite like that, because early on I was like, okay, well then it's up to me, like how much I get back or how much I can do. And then I think too, and obviously when you look back now, it's easy to feel like, yeah, I knew from the outset, like I was going to make it back. And I think I definitely made a decision early on that like the more reflecting I did on how bad the situation was, the harder it was just going to make the recovery. So I tried not to think about that too much and just tried to focus, like I said, on like what was right in front of me.
Good.
I think there's definitely lessons learned in terms of how that approach, working towards and achieving a long-term goal by setting like short-term and more like immediate kind of like checkpoints has definitely helped. So I think even in terms of my own coaching practice, like really re-understanding the value of that kind of thing has been super beneficial. And then there's also like the surgeon told me I'm not going to be able to run. So like I want to go out and like run a marathon, just like tick it off and like that sort of stuff as well. So there's been a lot of that. But I think two things. I think when you like people sort of saying like, oh, like been watching you and that's kind of been inspiring and that's nice to hear, but that's also not been like I got back in the gym pretty quickly because like I was pulling my hair out stuck in the wheelchair at home. Like it wasn't like, I was like, I've got all these people to inspire. It was just like, if I sit here in this like environment in this situation for too much longer, like I'm going to start to go downhill. And I even think like things like just missing coaching and missing like doing CrossFit and coaching CrossFit was like a driving factor in being like, well, the more I start to do and the more I can do, the sooner like getting back to that sort of stuff is. So that's kind of been like the journey to this point. But you still have those moments. Like I was at my exercise physiologist last week and he's sort of like, all right, like he's got a step that's basically shin high. And he's like, do you reckon you can jump up onto this step? And I was just like, I don't want to, like, I don't know, like I don't want to leave the ground and come crashing down and have my knees just splay everywhere, like all over the place again. So there's definitely still like that kind of, I guess like chink in the armor. But then like doing some like skipping or some like broad jumps and kind of like landing and realizing, and that was one thing he said, he's like, your knees are stronger than you think they are now. It's just your confidence in your knees that's been shot to shit. Sure. So like that's sort of where it's at, is like he's prescribing some more jump work, and I squatted yesterday for the first time in 5 months, and like it's like just doing that and being like, okay, like it's the numbers aren't super impressive or anything else, but it's like it's another step forward, it's another step forward, it's another step forward. But I'll say too, like reading fucking all the Goggins and talking to people like yourself, and like what I said with M of having a level of resiliency before you like get to a point where you need it is super helpful. And it's the same with any kind of level of fitness. Like being strong. And then I used to think like, oh, CrossFit like prepares you for life. But I think more accurate is like, you're pretty well prepared for when life goes wrong. Like the ability to transfer beds in hospital, just like using my arms, or like being able to do a pull-up to get into the car, like that sort of stuff. If I hadn't been able to do, would have made the journey, the same journey and process so much harder, harder. But yeah, it's kind of, I think when you look back at anything, whether you look back with rose-colored glasses, or it gets a bit easier to kind of frame the story from this perspective. But yeah, at the time, man, like especially early on, it's super hard to be like, I'm going to like you. I think I always knew that I was going to make it through, but I look back now and I look back at some of the reels and stuff I made, especially in the wheelchair phase. And I was like, I have no idea how I got through that. Like that was without a doubt the most difficult physical and mental thing that I've ever been through. And I have no idea how I got through it, other than obviously I had an incredible like support network around me. And like, I'm pretty stubborn, like when it comes, and I was ultimately, I was fucking bored. Like the wheelchair, I was like, I need to get the fuck out of this thing as quickly as I can. And so like all those kind of factors obviously like came into play, and you look back now and you're like, oh yeah, there's only like 3 or 4 weeks, but every like single day of those 3 to 4 weeks was just terrible. And like half of it I don't really remember because I was opioid out so much on like painkillers,
Yeah, I mean, but a couple of things, like, I mean, you look back, you're totally, I don't know how I made it through. Man, again, I can't relate to the same level you can. It's different, but I can find myself in the similar shoes. But when you look at it, man, you didn't have a fucking choice.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's I quite like that idea that like courage is not like the absence of fear. It's just like the ability to act. Like it doesn't exist without it. Like it's not that you're not scared if you're courageous. It's just that you like admit or accept how like terrifying things are and still like try to do the things that you have to do. Right?
Totally. And that's why I said like that acceptance piece is, this is the reality of the situation. And again, that tidal wave of emotions is going to come and go. It's going to knock you off your chair. But having your back against the wall and no fucking choice, like tomorrow's going to come whether you like it or not, man.
Yeah.
You know? So it's still up to you to make, whatever you got to make out of it. But buddy, and I hate to say this, and I say this from a place of empathy, but don't you find appreciation in the little things in life now?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
No.
I think I remember at one point, like being in the wheelchair and being like, imagine that like this was it. Like it was like there's no, like if it had been a spinal injury or something, like how much harder that would have had to be to deal with it. It's like, you better get used to being in a wheelchair because like, this is it,
Man, that perspective thing is incredible. And that's why I go back to that story with the boy in the wheelchair. I'm standing, he's got no legs, and I want to die, and he's smiling.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, even when we look at it like today, like millions of people would do anything to be in our shoes.
Yeah.
You don't want to stop every once in a while to check yourself, to realize what you've got. So much of our perspective is twisted based on this preconceived notion of what we think social media expects us to be like, or whatever it is. Man, give yourself a head shake. You got a roof over your head, you got fresh water. There's so many things to be grateful for, man. Maybe go ahead.
I think, you have to catch yourself in those moments. Like, and there's definitely been moments where I'm like, fuck, like all I was trying to do was have a laugh and have a kick around the footy in like a low grade, like just have some fun. And then just like, I thought at worst, because of my age, I'll probably do some soft tissue. Like I'll do a hamstring or I'll do a calf, and I'll be like, you know what? I tried to come back to footy and it's just like not going to happen. So there was a lot of initially like the crime does not fit, or the punishment does not fit the crime here of like going from just like a muck around football to like completely taking away sort of everything. But at the same time, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't think I say this, I don't think there's a time when it's, I remember doing preseason being like, fuck, I should go for a run, and then just being like, I can't bother. And now it's like, I'd kill to be able to like go for a run.
Yeah, totally.
But it's
man, makes sense.
But you say that now, like I'll never take it for granted again. But then as soon as we have it back, like you do, it's like, I don't know if it's human nature or what, but as soon as you kind of get something back that you've lost, it's not very long before you take it for granted all over again. And so I think trying to keep that, being pissed off that I'm not like running yet, and then trying to remember that at one stage the goal was to be like standing upright,
Yeah.
So
Ben, I remember, and this is something that I've done with almost all my athletes, is I get them to write down their conscious thoughts. And we've talked about this before.
We've done this.
And dude, I still do this till this day. Not every day, but if I find myself losing grasp of something that I deem to be important, and it kind of goes by the wayside because I take complacency back, or in your case, like, when you're like, oh man, I would die to have this, and then you get it back, and then it's like, it's just normal now.
Yeah.
Man, because when we think things, they happen so fast, consciously, you zoom by and you just go by your day. But the second it's written down, it's sitting on your desk, or it's somewhere it's important, wow, it becomes tangible.
Yeah.
I encourage everybody ongoing to write down some of your conscious thoughts throughout the day. I think it'd be incredible. I think it's an incredible lesson, and I think a lot of people would be surprised as to what the hell they're actually thinking.
The one thing I found the most interesting when we did that exercise was like, even though you have 100,000 thoughts like in a day, typically they're like the same 4 or 5 thoughts, just like reframed. It's usually like 4 or 5 different things that you just have reverberating the whole time. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And a lot of them can be based on your current situation in life or whatever it is you're facing. Some of them might be from certain past experiences. Some might be for what you're thinking about in the future. And this is what's so fascinating, is that everybody's are so different, but inside those notes, man, there's so much to learn. Yeah. Like so much. I think to me, the biggest thing that I learned was, holy shit, I'm thinking all these things and not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that was for me, like, man, I'm convinced myself that I'm busy, or I'm doing, it just like, wow. Once I wrote it down, I realized that I was a lazy piece of shit and I had to get to work.
Yeah.
So again, to me, it's a great exercise, and I think everybody should do it.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, buddy. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, mate. It's good to see you too.
Glad you're doing well. You haven't
We're
lost your
getting
sense
there.
of humor. That's good.
Oh, mate. Yeah, we're getting there. It's like I would rather go through another 12 months of Melbourne lockdowns than like go through like all the rest of it again. But
Yeah. But
yeah,
with that said, man, remember this time. And I think I said the same thing to you when you had your baby. I was like, man, this time is gonna fly past. I remember we used to chat on the phone, be out pushing the trolley around and then it was like, oh man, it's been 3 months or it's been 6 months, and it's just like the time flies by. But just embrace it, man. The good
yeah,
and the bad. Embrace it all, even this moment, because to me, I look back when I was sick. I know it sounds so bad. I would love to go back to see what my mindset was like consciously in this present moment, to go back, because I know now there was a gift, man.
what would you tell yourself if you could go back?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think the better question is, do you honestly think you'd listen?
Yeah, probably not. Probably tell
Yeah,
myself,
exactly.
oh, this idiot
It's like
talking
what
about.
you got to tell yourself at 18 and you got a list of things, and then you're like, but I don't think my 18-year-old self would have the capacity to.
No, man, totally. Man, like, it's so cool. I think uh I don't know, man. That's wow, I never thought about that. Maybe like just just knock me out, man. Like for being just a negative fuck, man. Excuse my language, but like,
Yeah.
man, I was in a horrible, dark place, and I know you've touched it, man. I know you've been there, And if
Mhm.
I say, man, I wish I could have just seen that boy in the wheelchair sooner, or even better yet, control what I can control and give my head a shake, change my perspective around. Bet you my life would have changed a lot earlier.
Interesting though, because if you hadn't gone through that the way you'd gone through it, then you wouldn't necessarily be at the point that you're at now.
That's exactly why I say to you, it was that was the best thing that ever happened to me,
Yeah.
because it's forged me to who I am today. And it's the same message that I have for everybody that's facing adversity. And somebody might listen and be like, man, F you, Brett, you don't have a clue what I'm going through. And that's fair. You're right. I don't. All I'm saying is that I believe in adversity lies advantage. And if you want to sit there and think about adversity as a negative and say, poor me, and not want to do anything about it, no problem. But then don't complain about it.
Yeah.
If you want to find it as it is, look at things as it is, but not worse than it is, and find the advantage and to do something with it, man, good on you. Because that's what's worked for me.
Yeah. What are you reading at the moment?
Man, I went gung ho for a while, and like the similar books that I read. And then I just started, I went back to like Shoe Dog, like just some cool, like fun reads, like super easy, just casual. Yeah. So, I mean, Shoe Dog. Oh, Never Split the Difference. I went back and read that again.
Yeah.
I love that book. What else we got over there? Oh, even Lewis Howes, The Mask of Masculinity. It's a pretty cool book. I like Lewis Howes, School of Greatness. I mean, he's got some cool stuff. But yeah, I just kind of took just a bit of a turn and went to like some more casual, easy reads for a bit.
Nice.
Changing gears, and a lot of Italian books.
A lot of Italian. How's it coming along? Good?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's pretty funny. I went to go visit my dad the other day, and I was like, oh, here, I'm going to show this asshole what's up. And it didn't work out very well.
It's correcting you now.
Yeah, it didn't work out very well. He just looked at me. He's like, yeah, just stop. Yeah. But no, it's coming along, man. Like I said, for me, it's fun. I was up for the challenge. It's something that I've always wanted to do. And doing it, it's kind of like proof that no matter the age, it's not too late. Like if you want to do something, you can do it. Like I'm wholeheartedly, like I truly believe I'm going to learn how to speak Italian.
Dude, you gotta watch cartoons in the language you're trying to learn, because they always use like quite basic, because it's for kids.
Yeah. Smart. Good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea. But yeah, I even I built a bit of a timeline of like where I want to be, and I'm going to change over everything in my phone to Italian, like just like the general stuff, like settings. But it's like I'm changing everything. So again, you got to make some sacrifices and you got to do it. But if you really want to do it, man, it's possible.
But surely, like, I don't know how things are set up in Canada, but go do like 3 months immersion, man. Don't just go to Italy for 2 weeks. Just go like jump in head first and just like live with an Italian family, or
Man, yeah. So I got tons of family in Italy. So that's the thing, is I booked 5 weeks in Italy next spring. I got so damn excited. I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be dope. I booked a place for 5 weeks. I'm gonna go there and just immerse myself, and I want to have a good base. And I'm gonna be in like some small cities, like where my family's from. And then I got so excited. I was like, man, it's so far away. I'm going at the end of April and all of May next year. So I couldn't wait. So I booked another trip in October.
No.
So I'm gonna pop over already, put my skills to test.
Good time to go. Oh, it starts to get cold, doesn't it?
Yeah, not too bad. It's like early mid-October. It's not too bad, but yeah, it'll be good.
All right,
It'll be
mate.
good.
We'll enjoy that and pop us
Excellent.
in for a trip down to Oz. We're
Gotta
gonna
happen, man.
we'll teach you Australian, full immersion.
Oh yeah,
You're
man. I
out
love
there
it.
with the swearing. We just gotta.
You know what? That's a cool book to read. Matthew McConaughey's book called Green
Oh,
Lights.
green lights. It's what's better than the book? The Audible.
It's so good, man.
Is
When
it
he
he
busts out the
narrates
Aussie accent.
yeah, the way he tells the stories,
Yeah.
hilarious.
Oh man, I love it. I love the story when he just lands there in Australia and they're driving and when they're like on their way. Like, oh
Yeah.
man, that book was phenomenal. I loved it.
The Doolies. The Doolies.
That's it. The Doolies. Yes. Man, I love that book.
Easy.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Thank you so
Well,
much.
Ben, thanks, bro. Good to see you again, man.
2 years between the next one. All right.
Yeah, that sounds good, man. Thanks, bro.
Thanks.
Thanks, bro.